Hey Ding Squad! Before we get into today's episode, we just want to point out that we recorded this on July 12th, 2024, which was before the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump and before President Joe Biden stepped down and endorsed Kamala Harris for the 2024 presidential race. A lot has changed in a little over a week, and we did not get to discuss it on today's episode. As always, you can be sure to find us on social media where we have not shut the F up about these events. And with that, enjoy the episode.
Dinky is a podcast where two pals just won't shut the F up about being child-free and the dink lifestyle. I'm Erica, and I don't have kids because I just want to watch my stupid little TikToks on the toilet in peace without a little rugrat coming to, disrupt me.
Mm-hmm. I know. I hear that. Wow, we really don't shut the F up about being child-free and the Dinks lifestyle, do we?
We really don't.
God. And I'm Kristen, and I'm child-free because Project 2025.
Oh, way to phone it in.
I phoned that one in, but it's true. It's a little fucking scary.
Well, by popular demand, today's episode is about Project 2025, which, if you're unfamiliar, many are calling a dystopian right-wing blueprint to overhaul America. Under, of course, the assumption that convicted felon Donald Trump, by some nightmare, is elected to a second term as president. We're definitely not election doctors, but as a bit of a political nerd myself, we're going to do our best to give you an introductory look into what conservatives are cooking up, discussing why it matters for you, and most importantly, talk about what you can do to make sure this insanity never takes hold. But first, we gotta dink ourselves.
Dink yourself! Wow, what a way to come back from that segment. We gotta dink ourselves!
A dink is a dual income, no kid household. So naturally, we're making bad choices with our disposable income. In this weekly segment, we chat through the frivolous and ridiculous purchases or hobbies that we couldn't afford if we had kids.
Dink Yourself is now sponsored.
I just want to say, I know you're obsessed with holding the mic. Yeah. But I just feel like this is going to be my week where all the mic sounds are you. And I'm so excited.
I can't wait. Can you hear feedback from me moving it?
Yes.
Oh. Okay. Well, we're going to try it.
Good luck.
All right, let me read this. Dink Yourself is now sponsored, but not necessarily endorsed by Childfree Wealth, a life and financial planning firm dedicated to helping child-free and permanently childless people live their best life without kids. Find a link to their website in our episode show notes.
Incredible. Kristen, how have you been dinking yourself lately?
So I've been racking my brain for this one because I don't know if I have a big dink yourself this time. I've been really trying to save money because I'm on the new Childfree Wealth financial plan, and they've tried to hold me to paying off some of my debts. So I've been pretty good. I will say that I think the biggest way I've dinked myself has been I've been planning for the Switzerland trip, and there is a brand called Unbound Merino.
Unbound Merino.
Yeah, like that. Like that country song
Doesn't
you
it sound
just
like
sang.
it should have a nice little, yeah, exactly. A nice little, Western flair.
I'm going to pretend like you weren't just influenced from listening to Cowboy Carter, literally 2 minutes ago before we started this, but yes. So I have bought from Unbound Merino, per a recommendation from one of the girls going on the trip, a couple tops. And that shit is not cheap. But let me tell you, I did a lot of research. I spent a lot of time looking at all sorts of wool tops, layered wool tops, because supposedly wool doesn't get as smelly when you're traveling. It is lightweight to pack. There's a lot of benefits to wearing wool. And I looked at other brands, a ton of other very well-known brands that are very expensive. And this one looks to be the best. I mean, truly, it looks to be the best quality and the comfiest. So I was like, shit, all right, we're doing it. So I bought a bundle pack, a t-shirt and a long sleeve shirt. I think it was $175 for just a t-shirt and a long sleeve shirt. So I'm going to call that my dink myself.
I love that. I'm looking at their website right now. I just want to give a heads up to folks. If you're mindlessly going on Google search like me, if you just search Unbound and click on the first link, it's going to give you vibrators.
Oh.
So I was like, what? What is this doing here? But now
I was
I'm
like,
on the correct
all
site.
the girls on the trip are bringing them with them.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
You
as
do
long
you.
as you don't have a shared room, sometimes you got to get your rocks off.
All right, let's move on.
I do like these bundles.
Yeah, but they're out of a lot of sizes, which I also struggled with. Yeah.
Don't love that.
Yeah.
Also, don't love their non-inclusive sizing, but alas, what can you do?
Yeah, they're pretty, I feel like they're pretty
Mainstream.
Smaller production is what I feel like, but.
Well, it's expensive, bro.
It really is. So how'd you dink yourself?
Well, here's the thing. My dink myself has now put me in dink jail because it has woken me up to the fact that I need to slow my roll a little bit. But I took the plunge. I bought a litter robot so that my cat can poop in a robot. And to be honest, right now, I'm not having a great time. We'll see in time if this purchase pays off, because I would love to not be cleaning litter boxes anymore. But right now, my cat's not loving it, so we'll see.
Yes, the litter robot that you have spent a lot of money on. Do you want to share with the listeners how much it cost?
Yeah, I bought a bundle so that it came with a little carpet tray, because where her litter box is on carpet, and you need to have the little tray to make it weigh your cat more correctly. And it came with a litter shield, and I bought some like extra bags. I don't know, litter tray bags. All in all, it came out to like $860, I think. So no small feat.
No. Now you're in dink jail.
And now I'm in dink jail. I mean, not because of the litter robot, but the litter robot really is what made me be like, okay. Also, I feel like anytime you're being more responsible, it kind of makes me be like, oh, fuck, I gotta get my life together also.
Really?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, oh, I don't want to be over here like dragging all this debt around if Kristen's finding financial freedom.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
I also just haven't been like motivated to like make any huge purchases, and I feel like the litter robot is like a great dink worthy purchase for sure.
Totally. Yeah, I was like, and also, I mean, her litter box in general is in the closet in my office, and obviously I work here at least 8 hours a day. I mean, I move through my house, but I'm mostly stationed in here. And so, like, if I'm in a meeting and she poops, it's like I smell it, you know? And I don't want to be in a meeting being like, oh, my cat just pooped.
Yeah, totally.
So,
yeah. No, it's a worthwhile investment for her, for you.
Yeah.
For your employment.
My sanity.
Yeah.
But, I mean, right now, my sanity's on its last thread.
Thin
but
ice.
We'll see how things go.
Right.
Maybe one day my dink myself will be, oh, I spent $800 on something frivolous because I returned the litter robot.
Yeah. Or like checked yourself into a mental institution for one night.
Well, one or the other.
Yep.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Childfree Wealth, because life is about more than just strollers and college funds.
Imagine a life plan personalized just for you by people who get it. That's what you get with Childfree Wealth through their one-on-one support.
Visit childfreewealth.com to schedule your free consultation, and search Childfree Wealth on all social media platforms today. Well, shall we talk about Project 2025?
Oh, yes. Let's talk about mental institutions. Project 2025 is the perfect
I gotta say,
segue.
too, I just gotta warn the listeners, we've gotten a ton of feedback from people. Even before we posted anything about Project 2025, we've gotten a ton of DMs from people being like, please talk about this. It's so important, which we agree. but I'm also having a shitty day. So this is going to be a real mood booster.
We'll let that fuel the conversation, your shitty day.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the shitty conversation.
But we're going to get through this and we're going to have fun in the process. All right. So listeners, by now you may or may not have heard about Project 2025. This plan is backed by a whopping $22 million budget and has been in the works for years now. But it's just now gaining more attention in the public eye after the president of the Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts, went on Steve Bannon. I feel like we all forgot about Steve Bannon, but here he is again. But Kevin Roberts went on Steve Bannon's podcast to say, quote, "We are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be." How's that sit with you, Kristen?
I'm feeling the blood in my eyes take over. I have never heard a statement that has made me want to kill people more.
Ooh, wow, what a take.
Yeah.
That you're like, actually, this is going to be very blood-filled.
Yeah, no. Nothing would piss me off more than one side, an oppressive side, telling the other side, everything is going to remain bloodless if you let us do whatever the fuck we want.
I know, isn't that wild? And actually, this quote, the craziest thing to me is this quote was in reaction. They were talking about the Trump immunity ruling from the Supreme Court, and they were like, great, everything's going according to plan. Like, this is like going on track with our American Revolution. Fantastic. So yeah, just as an FYI, because we're going to be talking about it a lot, it's worth noting that the Heritage Foundation is a right-wing think tank that has been cranking out big policy proposals like this since the Reagan administration. Ronald Reagan was a huge fan of the Heritage Foundation, and he was very grateful for all the work that they did because it really rooted his administration's policy. So if you're like us, not a fan of Reagan's work, then you should probably be pretty concerned about this.
Can I ask questions?
Yeah, of course.
If you may or may not know this about me, I used to be very into politics when I was younger. And then the older I got, the more cynical I got. And the more I realized I just wanted to kill myself every time I learned more about politics. So I just shove my head in the sand a little bit. And then I show up to vote and like help support, like, you know, I was campaigning for Biden, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, now I just don't watch the news until I have to. And so some questions I have for you, Erica, as the noob here. When we talk about this plan is being backed by a whopping $22 million budget, is the budget from the Heritage Foundation or where's that budget?
Yeah, the Heritage Foundation is the one that's producing this, and it's built up by like a bunch of different conservative organizations. So like Turning Point USA, I can't name all of them, but there's like probably 100 different organizations that are all working on this together. But the Heritage Foundation is where that money is coming from.
Okay, got it. You may proceed.
Okay. By the way, did you say you were campaigning for Biden?
After like Biden had been chosen as like the main presidential
the candidate
elect. Yes. I was like helping send out like text messages through like the voting.
You were?
Volunteer program. Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah. I was like helping send like mass text messages. I was like, now I fucking hate those people because I get so many fucking text messages. I'm so annoyed. But I was one of those people who was just like, hey, have you like registered to vote? Like, here's the steps on how to do it. Blah, blah, blah.
Wow, I love that. I had no idea you were doing that. That's great.
Yeah. See, but I bury my head in the sand until that point.
Yeah.
I go volunteer.
Fair. Yeah, that's great. Well, like I was saying, the Heritage Foundation has been providing these kind of policy proposals to Republican candidates since the Reagan administration. And so they've done this for Trump before, but it seems to me, from what I can understand, that this is a much more significant undertaking than anything they've done before. In Trump's first term, he actually implemented about 60% of their proposals when he took office in 2017. According to Crooked Media, which is an organization that is led by several former Obama staffers, they said in their What a Day newsletter, Project 2025 is a sweeping 922-page plan to reimagine the federal government crafted by a group of conservative organizations piloted by the Heritage Foundation. Foundation. The plan calls for undercutting checks and balances, supercharging the executive branch power, gutting civil service, embedding hardcore Trump loyalists throughout the government, and ramming through a host of right-wing policies. Change would come blitzkrieg style in the first 6 months of 2025. So a lot to unpack there. But to recap, there are basically two parts to this plan, and one is like a staffing issue. They're basically calling this like the LinkedIn for conservatives. And I don't know if you remember this, but you may recall that when Trump initially took the White House in 2017, his administration was so fucking wildly underprepared that as a result, it took them a really long time to adequately staff his team. So in a sense, Project 2025 is creating a database with the goal of having 10,000 far-right conservative loyalists vetted by the Heritage Foundation, ready to be employed by Trump's team on day one. So to speed up that process, they want to make sure that they have this massive arsenal of people who they know have the same values of them so that they can just hand this binder to Trump and say, you can hire any of these people and they have our full backing.
Okay. Yep.
All right. And then this is where things get really fun. So strap in. Are you ready?
No. But here we are, ready to go.
Can I get a yeehaw?
Yeehaw. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So the second prong of Project 2025 is policy oriented. The Project 2025 document claims 4 main policy aims. First, and this is going to be your favorite, Kristen, is to restore the family as the centerpiece of American life.
Wow. And how are they defining family, Erica? What do you think?
Oh, a man and a woman, which we'll talk more about that in a bit.
Wow. Can't wait.
The second aim is to dismantle the administrative state, which they consider the deep state. Basically, just the structure that holds the government together. The third is to defend the nation's sovereignty and borders. And fourth is to secure God-given individual rights to live freely. Any reactions?
I'm already thinking about what my escape plan is. Like, I'm already planning it. I'm not even like listening anymore. I'm just panicked. Okay, keep going.
Okay. So if that's not enough for you,
Mm-hmm.
here are a couple topics that are worth noting. Most of these come from the BBC, an article on the BBC, which we'll link in our show notes. And really, if you want to read more about any of this, we'll link everything in the show notes so that you can do a deep dive yourself, because obviously we only have so much time in this episode, so we want to get through as much as we possibly can. First, Project 2025 calls for the complete elimination of the Department of Education.
I even bullet number 1, I already am like, what the absolute fuck? Okay.
This is just the beginning. Like, it's so fucking crazy.
I know.
Even as I'm like, I'm going to list these things. And if you imagine, like, even if Trump puts in 60% of these things, like,
I know. I've seen that too. Even if it's like 50%, right?
It would eliminate job protections for thousands of nonpartisan government employees, i.e. experts, so Trump could directly install political appointees. So you have to remember, in the federal government, you know, obviously there are political actors, but a lot of the federal government is people who are nonpartisan, you know, like government employees who are paid to do a job because they are experts in it.
Right.
Project 2025 wants to gut that and take away those protections so that they can get rid of all those people and install all of their like far right activists, people who want to do these crazy things.
Mm-hmm.
It proposes slashing federal money for things like research and investment in renewable energy to fight climate change. Love to hear it.
Why the fuck would anyone go out of their way to fight climate change? Like, when we say fight climate change, we mean like uphold climate change and let it continue. Right. Okay.
Yeah. It establishes a framework for guiding the federal government through a biblical lens.
Okay. This episode is just going to be me going, what the fuck? Like every 10 seconds.
I'm just pausing to see if you have a reaction, but I know that you just want to scream after every single one of these.
Yeah. The biblical, separation of church and state is clearly not part of their MO here.
It's not part of their agenda. I'm sure that will be overruled. But they also want porn to be banned, which I find very interesting. basically they want to shut down any companies, tech companies that would facilitate access to be able to view porn. But I'm like, this is such a crazy proposition that's going to be so, like, everything on here is crazy, but this one feels like it's like specific in a way that, like, I don't think Trump supporters would agree with, you know?
Well, when you think of like the Puritan biblical person, that go to church, they're the type of person that this is catering towards. These are like educated upper class, quote unquote, educated upper class people in this, what did we call it? The Heritage Foundation. Like the people who are in the Heritage Foundation are definitely the type of people who are like in upper middle class areas, who are going to church every weekend, you know, who are friends with their pastor.
Yeah.
Yes. So maybe they're secretly watching porn in their closets, but they're not like upholding porn the way that like a lower income Southern man in the woods right now is masturbating furiously to porn all day, all night, and votes for Trump.
And that's like, I think a lot of Trump's supporters are those kinds of people. And so I'm like,
totally.
You better hope that this doesn't get out to them.
Right.
Also, I'm sure that Trump is not trying to ban porn. That man, I'm sure, is watching so much
nothing
porn.
that man does actually like coexists with reality, you know? Like
Right.
like nothing he says or does
Fair point.
is like in line with what his historical behavior has showed. So
Right. Okay, that's a good point. And then last on this list, before we get into some more specific things, it would call for an end to diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in the school and government departments.
Oh my God.
Among just a whole range of fucked up policy plans that especially attack the LGBTQ community, which I would love to get into, but we don't have time today. It would call for a wider crackdown on what they call woke ideology, which includes removing words like gender equality, abortion, reproductive health, and sexual reproductive rights from any government communications.
Mm-hmm.
You are smiling like a psychopath right now. It's truly unsettling.
You know who I'm thinking about? Who would you think about as soon as you said they want to call it end to DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs?
Our dear friend, Dr. Phil.
Our best friend, Dr. Phil, is such a fan of DEI programs. I bet you he's in the Heritage Foundation or whatever.
I'm looking up if he has a connection to the Heritage Foundation, because I bet you he does.
So for those who don't know, Eric and I, when we were researching about whether we should go on the Dr. Phil show, the new Dr. Phil show, we were looking at his episodes to kind of see like what the format looked like and like how they treated their guests, etc. And we realized through our research that Dr. Phil is a huge proponent of killing DEI. And like, that he made that like his entire show, his entire platform just kept like trying to like crucify DEI people. I don't know. It was so weird.
I wish I could think of a specific right now, but it was like he would bring it up out of the blue for something complete. Like you would be talking about like ice cream flavors, and he'd be like, you know what my favorite ice cream flavor is? Vanilla, and here's why. Because we need to get rid of diversity, equity. And it would be like, what are you talking about? He like finds the most crazy. I can't find any specific plans, but I would bet $1 million that he's involved. He's got some connection to the Heritage Foundation, no question.
Yeah. This so when we think of the archetype of the person that this is catering to, this is Dr. Phil.
You're right.
We should just make him the poster child in our brains of who loves Project 2025.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So all of that is a great transition to talk a little bit deeper about some of the things that our audience specifically will be concerned about. So here are a couple of my favorite passages that we found. First, it proudly states that, quote, men and women are biological realities, and that, quote, married men and women are the ideal natural family structure because all children have a right to be raised by the men and women who conceived them.
Okay.
Do you have a migraine yet?
Nope, but I might have a warrant out for my arrest soon. While
much of what I have read doesn't directly talk about abortion, Project 2025 does encourage Trump to push as hard as possible, quote, to protect the unborn in every jurisdiction in America, specifically by targeting abortion, contraceptives, and this is one thing that I have not seen people talking enough about. They want to transform the Department of Health and Human Services into the Department of Life.
Okay.
Which to me just says like they're basically going to turn us into like pregnancy cattle. You know, like they're just going to turn us into animals who are just like creating new babies.
Okay, I will say I don't know anything about the Department of Health and Human Services, and I don't totally understand what the Department of Life means, but judging by the previous statements and definitions, we could just assume that they are going to be pro-life as fuck, and that's America. Pro-life everywhere, everything. I mean, it's just insanity, but all right.
Yeah, I want to just make sure that I get this correct, but to my knowledge, the Department of Health and Human Services basically like they do a lot of things, but I think they're in charge of a lot of like research, but then they also manage things like cash and childcare benefits. So things like Medicaid or food stamps, things like that would fall under the Department of Health and Human Services, which would now become the Department of Life.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I just can't. How do these people not know that so many of the people that they will force into this world against everyone's support is going to end up in a situation where they aren't struggling and want to die? Like, I just love the idea that pro-life really, I mean, we all know this, but pro-life really is setting people up for failure. And these kids are going to end up in foster care systems. It's just going to be horrible. It's going to be horrible for so many people because of this fucking pro-life policy.
Yeah, and we know this because we've talked about this on the show a bunch, that like a lot of these things are really just to ensure that there are, like we've said a million times, like desperate wage slaves who need jobs so that they can go work for these mega corporations, further kill the climate, and line the pockets of the super wealthy.
I wonder how much of it really is them, because so much of this is biblical, right? I wonder how much of them is really, well, quote unquote, biblical, right? And that's where my question is, because I wonder how many of them are just that fucking dumb and under the illusion of the God cult that they genuinely think that they're doing a service for God by enforcing these biblical like ideologies versus how many of them are doing it for capitalism.
To be honest, I think a majority of these people are doing it for capitalism. I think for a lot of them, and I could be wrong, but I do think for a lot of them, it's the evangelical thing as a cover to make themselves look ethical. But in actuality, they just want to be rich and powerful.
Because they're going to profit from it, right?
Yeah, they're mostly rich white men who want to maintain the status quo.
Yeah, well, more people fueling the Social Security system. And yeah. Okay.
Well, it calls the document calls overturning Roe v. Wade the greatest pro-family win in a generation, and said that the Dobbs decision is just the beginning. And I think that it's really important to point that out specifically, because a lot of what I have read, like a lot of the kind of like primer articles that I've read, say things like, oh, Project 2025 doesn't call for a nationwide abortion ban, which, like, it doesn't specifically, but those kinds of words make it seem like they don't have a huge focus on abortion, or a national abortion ban is not the main focus. And I think that's a massive lie, and it's a huge risk to American society, because in actuality, the word abortion appears 199 times in the Project 2025 document, according to Bloomberg. So this is obviously a very big focus for them, even if they're not actually putting a nationwide abortion ban front and center. It's absolutely top of mind for them.
Can we circle back in the beginning of the spiel? It calls overturning Roe v. Wade the greatest pro-family win in a generation, and said the Dobbs decision is just the beginning. And as somebody who purposely maintains life away from politics, I don't know what the Dobbs decision is.
Yeah, so the Dobbs decision is the Supreme Court case. I'm glad that you brought that up. Thank you. The Supreme Court case that overturned Roe v. Wade.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's just Roe v. Wade, basically.
Yeah. But
Okay.
important to know.
Okay. Well, I mean, previously, I'm reading from the document here that says they are targeting abortion contraceptives through the transformation of the Department of Health and Human Services into the Department of Life. So just by stating, I assume this is in the document, that they're stating that they're targeting abortion and contraceptives, like that infers that they're going to be targeting abortion.
Perfect transition, Kristen. Thank you for flagging that. So the mandate suggests that Trump should lobby Congress to pass a nationwide abortion restriction. Allegedly no full ban, like I said, but who fucking knows? And the document gives him a lot of guidance on how he can use his federal agencies to limit abortions in the meantime while we wait for Congress to enact a full ban. So a couple nuggets from the document. First, they want to remove emergency contraception from the list of preventative services insurers must cover under the Affordable Care Act. So if you love getting free birth control under your insurance or getting that once every 5 or 7 years IUD, that's going to be axed. You're going to have to go back to paying pharmaceutical services. Second, they're calling on the FDA to rescind its approval of chemical abortion drugs such as mifepristone, which is important to note accounts for about 63% of all abortions. So just by taking that away, you're putting a significant dent in people's ability to access reproductive health care. They also want to use the Comstock Act to make it illegal to mail abortion medication, which was like a huge win for Congress recently when they passed that. And so that would overturn that law. So abortion medications like mifepristone can't be mailed across state lines.
Okay.
Or mailed at all, excuse me. They also want to revoke Medicaid funds from states that require private insurance policies to cover abortions.
Okay, sorry, let me read this a little slower. Revoking Medicaid funds from states that require private insurance policies to cover abortions.
So, for instance, if you have private insurance, this would make it so that states don't have to accept basically your private insurance to be able to cover abortion, is how I'm interpreting that.
Okay.
So if your state is going to allow that, then they're going to take your funds away, your Medicaid funds.
Okay. Just to double click on that, because I'm not done with that one. The idea of revoking Medicaid, really Medicaid is available to those who have low income, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that we can assume that. So people with private insurance are generally employed and they're offered through their employer. So Medicaid is funded through, I assume, federal, government to provide some level of care. So by removing the funding of Medicaid and coverage for Medicaid, you're taking away someone who already is at a disadvantage in an income perspective to be able to get access to an abortion. So therefore, they are forced to have a kid that they cannot afford, literally.
Yeah,
and because it's quote unquote pro-life. Okay, keep going.
But here's the thing, too. So the way that I'm interpreting this, though, is that they're going to remove Medicaid funds entirely from states, just states that require private insurance policies to cover abortion. So this isn't even necessarily about if you need an abortion. They're going to take away Medicaid funds completely.
Oh.
So if you need Medicaid and you live in a state that requires private insurance policies to cover abortions, you will no longer have access to Medicaid.
Wow, that is really fucked up.
Yeah. So they would also prohibit hospital emergency rooms from providing an abortion in order to save a woman's life.
I fucking hate men. I fucking hate them. At least I fucking hate all the men who are drafting up the Heritage Foundation fuck all Project 2025 plan.
Yeah.
The idea that they are pro-life by literally saying we're going to murder a woman,
I know,
makes literally no sense to me.
I know. I mean, that's, I think, why it's so important to talk about these things, because Republicans are really good at messaging and communication. And so when you say something like pro-life, it sounds
Like a
It
positive
sounds
marketing
so
term.
positive, like who doesn't want to be pro-life? And not enough people are like, I mean, I think maybe now people are aware enough, but like, I don't think enough people know about this kind of shit. And so it's like, people are just like, oh, both sides have both sides are good, both sides are bad. There's corruption on all sides. People need to have their own opinions. And it's like, actually, no. These people are like psychotic and they're fascists and they want to fuck our lives over.
Yeah.
And we're just going along with it because we're like, two-party system, it's normal. But like, what's happening is absolutely not normal.
No. Oh, it's so infuriating.
Okay, so if you're mad at all of those, just wait until you hear this one. They want to conduct expansive government tracking of every instance of spontaneous miscarriage. So treatments that incidentally result in the death of a child, such as chemotherapy, stillbirths, and induced abortions. So anytime a woman has a spontaneous miscarriage, they want the government to track this to make sure that it wasn't an intentional abortion.
I feel like I'm living in
The Handmaid's Tale.
In like literally, that's what I was thinking of. Like a dystopian Handmaid's Tale. Okay. I mean, I'm just reading this again. Treatments that incidentally result in the death of a child, such as chemotherapy. So again, if you're trying to save your life.
Mm-hmm. And maybe you don't even know that you're pregnant, but you have to have chemotherapy. And then you end up needing a miscarriage. Or you end up miscarriaging and needing an abortion.
Stillbirths and induced abortions. Yeah, this is like Handmaid's Tale so that they can listen, I'm jumping like a lot of steps ahead, but in theory, they could track who are the most fertile people, the most successfully able to procreate people, and who are either quote unquote bad people because they're choosing their lives over their babies, or if they're just like not successful at procreating, then there's something defective about them.
Yeah. And I mean, you're saying like, oh, I'm jumping so far in the future, but like, are you? Like when you read these kinds of things, like it's really not that crazy to think that those kinds of wackadoo policies would be the case when they're already writing this shit down.
Right.
So it sounds cool, right?
Wow.
Cool. So how much on a scale of 1 to 10 do you want to throw up right now?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that question because I was feeling sick. Like my stomach feels sick after having this. I was feeling angry and like blood was coming out of my eyeballs. And now I just feel slightly nauseated.
Yeah. Researching this, I don't think I've been this depressed in a long time.
Yeah.
I read about politics way too much. And I actually hadn't been reading about Project 2025 because I kind of was like, whatever, like I'm not going to bother with it. But then when we started working on this episode, it just like, it was too much for me, dude. It was a lot. And this is just like skimming the surface, really. Like we could go, it's a 900-page document. We could talk about this for hours.
Right. It's just so wild to me to think that like, back when the world was good, when we had Obama as our president, and we thought that the world, so American of me, the United States, I thought the United States was like taking a turn for the better in a better direction. And we were moving in the right direction with like Affordable Care Act and like, legalizing gay marriage and all these wonderful policies helping people to live better lives in America. And to go from that to even the idea of electing Trump felt so out of like it seemed so unlikely and so out there that it wasn't even like a real threat. It was like, well, people aren't that stupid,
Yeah, I know.
Americans can't be that stupid. And then to go from 4 years of the chaos that was that presidency. I mean, I'm thinking even just like the storming of the Capitol, like
I know, dude.
Allowing that kind of thing to happen, allowing now a man who has been convicted of felony after
felony counts, whatever.
Yes, charged with felony counts. And to even be thinking that it's not only unlikely that this person could be back in office to consider these psycho policies, but it is like scarily possible that this could be our future. The juxtaposition of where we were in like 2013
I know.
to where we are now, just like 10 years later, basically, it feels like we're in a scripted movie that has gone awry.
Totally. And I think that's like why I'm so scared right now, because Donald Trump was already a threat to democracy, 6 months ago. And I was already afraid because I know so many people who want to do a protest vote or non-vote this year because of what's happening in Israel and Palestine, which, like, as an Arab American myself, I totally understand. And now that's compounded by all of these conversations about how Biden is too old and people are worried that he's not up to the task, which, again, very valid reasons to not want to vote for Joe Biden. But at the end of the day, we need to remember that we're voting for the administration and basically voting against fascism, like protecting democracy. And we can worry about, like radical change later on when we don't have this like crazy threat. Because like you said, like when Trump was in office, it was like in our face every day, like you couldn't, I mean, maybe you could, I don't know. I felt like I couldn't ignore politics because it was everywhere and like you could viscerally feel it. And the thought of that happening again, and this time they're prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine. And also this time he's not going to be running again. And he's already said that on day one, he's going to become a dictator. He has said that publicly.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I'm just like you guys, we cannot fuck around with this election. Like, this is not the time.
No.
All right. Well, like you and I, Kristen, according to Gallup, 85% of people in the U.S. believe abortion should be legal in at least some circumstances. So it's wildly popular. And in fact, the number of people who believe it should be completely legal, 35%, is nearly triple the number who think it should be completely illegal. So that's 35% compared to 12%.
Right.
So the more that people know about this, it's not going to sit well with the American population at large. So, of course, because Project 2025 has been gaining so much steam in the mainstream press, Trump has been trying to create some distance between himself and this wildly unpopular plan, taking to his favorite Truth Social to say that he knows, quote, nothing about it, and has, quote, no idea who is behind it, before adding that he disagrees with some of its propositions. Which I love, that he knows nothing about it and no idea who is behind it, but somehow disagrees with some of the propositions. Classic. The other really charming thing about that is that while he claims he has no idea who is behind it, he directly worked with two of its lead authors because they were on his staff. And there are dozens of people who have worked in the Trump administration and worked very closely with Donald Trump who have worked on this project. So what a surprise. This man who is known for lying has lied again.
Lying. Right. We can't fucking trust this man with literally anything that he says.
Totally. The think tank is made up of hundreds of conservative organizations who have had very close ties to his administration during his presidency. So here's what you can do. Instead of just listening to this and going and laying down and feeling despondent, first of all, we have to remember to vote. This is not the year for a protest election. This isn't just about your president. It's about Congress. This is also about the U.S. Supreme Court. It's about our local elections. And when we're talking about things like abortion rights, it's like that's just as important for Congress as it is the presidency. So make sure you take time to read your ballots or find a political friend who can make you a guide. I have a friend who makes me a guide every election. It's a huge help. It just clears a lot of things up because those, especially in the States, I don't know if this happens elsewhere, but they intentionally manipulate the way that those election booklets sound to make it confusing. So talk to your friends.
Yeah.
Listen to fact-based podcasts, two of which that I would recommend are The Daily by the New York Times or Today Explained by Vox. And just, take this shit seriously. This is not the time to fuck around because we'll find out.
Damn, dude. Yeah.
Any closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts. Wow. Gee. Let's hope that we never have to come to face whatever happens in a Trump administration next. Let's hope that this is something we never have to deal with. And let's hope that anybody out there who wasn't planning on voting in the United States, please vote. Please vote for Biden, even if you don't like him. because we understand, but the alternative is much, 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 much worse. So, yeah, we're just hoping everyone kind of comes together and defeats this fucking psychopath and his cult army when the election season comes.
Can you imagine if we elect a felon? There's nothing more American than doing
That's
that.
what's scary. We already elected this fucking guy who was like a bankrupt businessman and a D-list actor. So we've done worse. So
yeah. All right. Well, I thought that we could get some of our frustrated energy out with a new segment called Here's the Thing. This is basically a new segment where we essentially rip off the I've Had It girls. We're huge fans of that podcast, and we love them. So we wanted to just, what do they say? Imitation is something about flattery. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
So for this, we will both get 1 minute to talk about a thing. And you can just vent. You can get all your frustration out. So do you want to go first or should I?
Do you think it has to be a minute? Like, can't we just wing it?
Oh, sure. Okay.
I don't think we need to do the whole, do we?
No.
We'll just keep it short. Okay. So my piece today is about a Reddit post that I saw on the subreddit Ask Old People. And somebody asked, would you still have kids if you were young now? And I will say most of the top upvoted comments were all people saying no, they wouldn't.
Wow.
For many reasons. Basically the state of the world, climate change. One person said having kids was the biggest mistake I ever made and I'd never want to be a grandparent. Yes. And so there was a lot at the top that all said no. But one of the most upvoted yeses, which was pretty far down the list with 168 upvotes so far, is this person's response that says, yes, we live in some of the safest, most prosperous times in the world's history. There will always be the potential for things to go south, and there always has been. The difference now is that people are rewarded for ginning up fear, hysteria, and hatred to a degree that humanity has never seen before the past decade or two. One thing I would probably do is keep my kids off of social media until they were as close to adulthood as possible. And a couple responses to that are saying things like, I agree. I think young people need to read up on the past. This is nothing new. Life in the 70s was insane. Inflation, interest rates, gas crisis, unemployment, etc. And then another person said, there are always going to be issues. That's life. So here's the thing, Erica. Do we think it's okay to bring children into a world knowing that history repeats itself in a bad way? Knowing that housing costs, gas crisis, unemployment, inflation is a reoccurring thing that we can't fucking fix. And we recognize that's just life, that horrible things happen. And we think that that's just a reason to have kids because it's always going to be shit.
I will never understand that logic. It doesn't make any sense. Things have always been bad, so you should just do it.
Keep doing it? Yeah. Keep doing it if you want to, even though your kids are going to suffer too.
I can't comprehend where that insanity comes from.
Me neither. So that's my first Here's the Thing.
I love it.
What's your Here's the Thing?
All right. Well, we posted an Instagram reel recently about Gypsy Rose getting pregnant. And obviously, we took a approach to that opinion that was not a good thing, that it's been not enough time, that she has too much unresolved trauma, and her love life is chaotic, and maybe this isn't the right time to have a child. And we, for the most part, people agreed with us, but we did get a couple comments from people saying, oh, Gypsy's been through enough. I don't think we should leave her alone. Oh, maybe this will make her happy. And then, that justifies it. But here's the thing. Gypsy is fucking choosing to be in the public eye. If Gypsy got out of prison and was like, look, I don't want to be a public figure. I want my privacy. I want to go live a solitary, normal life. Great. I won't talk about you. But when she's actively doing press interviews, making TikToks about getting a nose job, doing a Lifetime documentary, putting all of her shit out there, doing TikToks about prison makeup, like, she is choosing to be in the public eye. And I'm sorry, when you're in the public eye, you face scrutiny. Kristen, you and I face it every fucking day. People have a lot of opinions about our bodies. They have opinions about the things that we say, the way that we look, all kinds of things. That's just the way life is, unfortunately. So, look, is Gypsy a traumatized person who has probably some mental health issues? Yes. But I don't think she should be having a child, and I'm going to say that online. And if you don't like it, too bad.
Right.
Here's the thing.
I do like that you quoted this, I'm assuming, boomer who said, there are always going to be issues. That's life. And you just said, that's life. If you're in the public eye, people are going to talk shit. And it's true.
But here's the thing. I'm not subjecting another person to this.
No.
She has subjected herself to that, and I'm not having kids and parading them around on YouTube, which you know Gypsy's going to do that. She is going to profit off of her child. No fucking way that she's not going to.
Well, I mean, I can't just get over the fact that she was literally she's not even divorced yet.
I know.
And she went back to an ex-boyfriend very publicly.
Yes.
And then got pregnant. So,
wait.
I mean, what?
Did I send you the TikTok about Louisiana?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait.
Well, for listeners, can I just explain?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This TikTok, I saw this person, and I haven't fact-checked this, so take this with a grain of salt. But this TikTok was saying that in the state of Louisiana, if you are going through a divorce at the time that you get pregnant, the father listed on the birth certificate will be the man you were originally married to. So there's a very good chance that when she gives birth, Ryan is the original guy. So Ryan's name will be on the birth certificate, and then they will have to go through a legal court proceeding to be able to change the birth certificate. And that involves a DNA test, all kinds of shit to prove that Ken is the rightful father. And I'm just like, bro, this is fucking crazy.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add other than they are crazy. They're crazy.
They are crazy.
Yep.
And I don't like calling women crazy, and I don't like calling people crazy, but this situation is fucking crazy. I think we can all agree.
They are crazy. They are really everyone involved in this situation is just kind of out of control.
And you know what? If you disagree with me, you're crazy.
Yeah, you know what? We're the sane ones here. You're the crazy ones.
Yeah. Take that.
Yeah.
Don't
take
at me.
Yeah, here's the thing, bitch.
Yeah. Like, I just can't believe that people are going to get mad at us for saying Gypsy Rose, a murderer who just got out of prison, should just go and have a baby? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and supposedly the amount of people that are sending her baby gifts.
Oh,
when they could, that money could be going to children in foster care or people who really need it. No, no, this is so stupid.
I know. I saw, I'm trying to wrap up this episode, but I have to talk about this. I saw an interview with her on TikTok today where the reporter was asking her, like, are you worried about all the trauma that you've been through? Like, how are you going to explain this to your child? And she was talking about how her and her partner have both been through, like, broken households and a lot of trauma, and they're allegedly committed to not giving that same life to their child. But I'm like, well, then how about you just fucking wait a little while and go to therapy?
How old is Gypsy?
32 years.
32 years old. It's not like she's at the, end of her biological abilities to have a child.
No.
So she can wait a little bit to go to therapy. Maybe get a real divorce. Maybe get a real
divorce. Get married.
Real
I mean, you don't
honeymoon.
Have to get married.
Just have a vacation. Just like fucking take a break.
Go to couples therapy. Yeah.
Definitely go to couples therapy.
Outside of prison.
Good times.
I have so many more things I want to say, but I'm gonna put a lid on it.
Great, because we got to go to dinner tonight.
We do. Well, thanks for listening, folks. Dinky is a podcast on the Spreaker Prime Network. Many thunks.
Many thunks?
Many thanks to Chloe Steinhoff-Smith for our podcast art. Leah Herder, thanks to you too for creating our show's theme and interview transition music. And a double thanks to Vince Shortino for audio mixing and editing, because you know what? He has to listen to all this shit for hours. Thanks and thanks upon your household. Thanks to Childfree Wealth for sponsoring this episode. Need a life and financial planning firm to get your dunk? Oh my God. I cannot do this. I cannot.
Wow, the Project 2025 ruined your brain.
It really did. It really did. Wait, can I tell you one more thing? This isn't about Project 2025, but I was reading today about the Republican convention, how they're going to put their new party platform out. And one of the things on there was keeping men out of women's sports.
What?
Yeah, exactly. Need a life and financial planning firm to get your dink finances in order? Visit childfreewealth.com to get started and tell them we sent you, and also tell them that you want men and women's sports.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, their platform is only 16 pages, and that's one of the priorities for them. Want to connect with us on social media? You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at DinkyPod. If you have a question or a comment, it better not be about Gypsy Rose, because I'll put that shit straight in the trash. Email us at dinky@dinkypod.com. If you're a fan of the show, please remember to subscribe, leave a review, share the podcast with friends. It's not too much to ask.
No.
You're being very quiet during this outro.
I know. I'm pooped. This whole Project 2025 thing has got me asleep mentally.
Yeah, how's your butt doing?
Honestly, pretty uncomfortable. I've been sitting upright. My hand has a cramp because I've been holding this microphone for an hour plus straight. So I'm ready.
All right. Well, visit the show notes to shop merch, donate to the show, and find more information about this episode.
And if it's before August 8th, you might be able to book a Switzerland trip.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Love ya.
Bye.
Dink life.